a couple of songs for you. That's all right. So, the camera that is filming us online, which one? You can tell I work in telly, can't you? Which camera do I need to glitter at? Is it over there? That one? Okay. So that's where our online audience is. We can address them.
Oh, can we start?
Yeah.
Gosh, how exciting. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the RSA. I'm Lloyd Grossman, and it's my privilege to be chairman of the RSA. Who hasn't been here before? Who's a newcomer? Oh, excellent. Excellent. We hope you enjoy it very much. Just for interest, although the RSA is often referred to, shorthand, is the Royal Society of Arts. Its real name, which is very important, is the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufactures, and Commerce. And encouragement is very important to us, and it's something we've been doing for 271 years, so we're starting to get the hang of it. It's such exciting for us to be opening this new lecture series in partnership with the UK at Expo 2025, Osaka, Kansai. Hence this rather fabulous badge. I do hope you can all get one, if not actually get to Osaka yourselves. We very much treasure the relationship between Japan and the United Kingdom. It's extraordinarily important to us. A not very well-known fact, the first Japanese to visit the UK arrived in 1587. The English, marginally less adventurous, waited till 1600 to visit Japan. And the first Englishman to arrive in Japan became known as Muri Anjin and became a samurai, which I suppose was a great surprise to his parents back at Gillingham in Kent. Tonight, we're inviting you to come and consider how we can build the future together. It is not particularly original to say that the world is becoming more fragmented and divided, and we think that the World Expo represents what people can achieve when they come together. This event series, this is the first of a series of events at the RSA, which is going to explore how we can unleash creativity and innovation to meet the great challenges of our times. We will be bringing together innovators and change makers from across disciplines, because we're very interdisciplinary, to create dialogue, strengthen relationship, and sow the seeds for new collaborations. It's very fitting that the series should take place here in the Great Room, a home for over 250 years to conversations that have shaped the future of culture and society, not just here in the UK, but actually all around the world. Within these walls, for example, the RSA created the first World Expo, the great exhibition of 1851, which was an incredible event that displayed to the world the UK's industrial and artistic achievements. And it was very much animated by a spirit of optimism, collaboration, and confidence in the power of ideas to improve lives. That spirit continues to guide the RSA's mission today. It's very much at the beating heart of the UK Pavilion at Expo 2025. We believe, it's probably rather unfashionable, but we believe in progress, and we believe that people have the power to make things better. And that's what this organization is all about. And as a sales pitch, if anyone here is not yet a fellow, please apply. Yes? This evening, we're going to hear from a star-studded lineup of speakers who are pushing forward the boundaries of creativity in their respective fields. In future events, we'll have the opportunity to link with the pavilion in Osaka in real time to hear from innovators in both the UK and Japan. Each event in the series reflects our enduring belief in the power of creative innovation and collaboration to drive social progress. I'm very much looking forward to hear from our speakers and from you all this evening as we begin this important conversation. I'm particularly thrilled to have the brilliant Nina Nana to introduce, you could applaud, to yes, please don't be too restrained. The brilliant Nina Nana to introduce the panel to us and to guide our discussion. I'm very grateful to you, Nina, for coming along to do this. But first, to set the scene and to bring the pavilion to life for us, we have a short video to share with you. The pavilion has been designed by the London-based studio of Wu Architects, led by RSA fellow Kevin Owens, founder and CEO, and built by ES Global. This video has been created for us by Immersive International, who've designed the visitor experience element of the pavilion. Immersive's founder, John Monroe, and MD Tommy Lexon are also both fellows of the RSA and have been pivotal in making our partnership with Expo possible. So many thanks to them, and let's see the video. Just a little taste of the visitor experience and a hint at how great the pavilion's role is going to be in the coming months as a hub for creativity and innovation. Before I hand over to Nina to helm the rest of the evening, we're greatly honored to have a very special guest with us, Mr. Kayoichiro Kawakami, who is Economic Minister at the Embassy of Japan in the UK. I'm delighted to invite him to the stage to open the evening with a few words. Please welcome Minister Kawakami.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you for your kind introduction, Lois, and my sincere thanks to the Royal Society of Arts for hosting us in such a historic venue. As Sir Lois reminded us just before, this very hall is the birthplace of the great exhibition of 1851, the very first World Expo. And it's really fantastic that the RSA has continued to support the World Expo movement for over 175 years. Maybe it's a bit short for RSA, but it's still a really, really long time. So Expo 2025 Osaka, Kansai, Japan has opened on April the 13th. And just 2 weeks later, visitor numbers have already exceeded 1 million. 1 million. So lots of people gathered there. And I was delighted to learn that the UK Pavilion in Osaka has already become a beacon for visitors from Japan and across the globe. And I'd like to extend my congratulations to all those who made this possible, especially our DBT team. Thank you for your efforts. And it's all your, thanks to all your efforts. Because I like to emphasize this, because I know this is not an easy path to come this way. The UK Pavilion has been very active from day one, as it already hosted a special day dedicated to celebrating Scotland last week, and tomorrow is the first of Wales Days at the Expo. The UK National Day on May the 22nd is also fast approaching, and we welcome the many more UK delegations, both from regions and business communities, will be traveling to Osaka over the coming month. The UK holds a special place in the hearts of many Japanese people. In Japan, the UK is seen as being stylish, sophisticated, and elegant. Yes, true. British products are widely regarded for their quality and their excellence. A number of UK-produced fairs are annually held at big department stores in Tokyo and many other cities in Japan. As I prepared for today's remarks, I asked myself, do people in the UK see Japan as a creative country too? Yeah. Yes? At first, my answer was a bit more reserved, I have to say. But my colleagues at the embassy in London quickly reassured me. Just as we speak of cool Britannia, you speak of cool Japan. They pointed to Japan's traditional arts like ukiyo-e or kabuki, its global pop culture like manga and J-pop, and our advanced technologies like iPS cells that can transform into any type of human tissues, one of the cutting-edge technologies shown at the Expo 2025. So, while Japan and the UK might have different approaches to creativity, as reflected in the distinct designs of our pavilions, by the way, your pavilion is really good, and we allocated the special venue for UK Pavilion there, so please visit your pavilion there. But these differences are not barriers that part us from each other, but some opportunities to unite us together. So it is my sincere hope that today's event is one such opportunity for continued collaboration between our two countries in the art and creative industries that will help create synergy and power to make a difference for the future. Together, we can come build the future. We warmly welcome you and whole world to Osaka. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lloyd. Thank you so much, Minister Kawakami. They were wonderful words. Look at my stylish, elegant panel, ladies and gentlemen. Not my words, but... this is my panel. They are hugely impressive figures, ladies and gentlemen. They're game changers, they're innovators, and in their own way, they are building a new future and have been doing for years and will continue to do so. We're so happy to have you all here. I'm going to do a brief introduction to you, everyone is. I mean, their CVs go on for pages and pages and pages and pages, so forgive me.
No, let's hear it all. Let's hear it all.
So we'll do Peter today, and then we'll move to the... So I'm just going to squash them all down, and forgive me if I miss out the one thing that you wanted me to say, but this is just an introduction to who we have sitting here, who we're delighted to have sitting here. Let's start with Sir Peter Bazalgette, who's sitting next to me. He's a British television executive, writer, arts advocate, and he's co-chair of the Creative Industries Council and Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council at the Royal College of Art, as well as a huge list of organisations that he has helmed in his career. He was chair of the Arts Council and at a little company called ITV, where he was very briefly my boss, and I'm still here. And many of you will also know Peter from the era-defining television shows that he spearheaded all those decades ago, you know, Deal or No Deal, Big Brother, these things are still on television. So I think he knew what he was doing. I think he knew what you were doing. And also, very interestingly, when I was reading up about you, Peter, you are the great-great-grandson of Sir Joseph Baddeljet, and he's the man who designed London's Victorian sewage system. So you have innovation running through your veins, which is better than sewage, isn't it?
About the same.
About the same. This is where his innovation comes from. Let's move next to my mate Yolanda, who I've interviewed quite a few times and is wearing a very attractive shirt today, ladies and gentlemen. We did compare what we were wearing. Now, Yolanda is a British saxophonist, composer and broadcaster and a renowned champion of music and musicians. In 2022, she was appointed chair of the British Phonographic Industry, which is recorded music's trade body. It looks after things like the Brits and the Mercury Awards and a whole lot of other stuff as well. Yolanda is also chair of Youth Music. You're very passionate about access to music for young people. She's also sitting on the Arts Council, National Council, and is a trustee of the PRS Foundation. Also, ladies and gentlemen, Yolanda has just opened a very, very nice restaurant in London called Soul Mama. If you want to schmooze anyone afterwards, come and schmooze, come and schmooze. There might be a meal in it for you, so really lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you.
Sitting next to to Yolanda, we have Dai Fujikuru, who is a multi-award-winning composer who was born in Osaka in 1977. Yep. And then he moved to the UK when he was 15 years old. Now, he hasn't got a Cockney accent, ladies and gentlemen. He's got a very Japanese accent, which I've questioned him about, but it is a beautiful accent. When you moved to the UK, you studied under Sir George Benjamin, and your incredible work has been performed around the world by leading orchestras, whether it's work based on a story by H.G. Wells or the 75th anniversary of the Hiroshima bombings. He experiments with music and film and with spatial separation, which is a technique where you kind of divide up where the orchestra is sitting and you get a whole different effect and a whole different aesthetic. And since 2017, Dai has been the artistic director of the Born Creative Festival at Tokyo Metropolitan Theatre. Welcome, Dai. Indy Johar, sitting next to you. Hello there, welcome. Indy is an architect and a founder of Dark Matter Labs. He and his team of fellow architects, economists, lawyers, scientists have their eyes very firmly set on reimagining a new future, be it in towns, cities, regions, where we are better able to embrace and use new technologies and a new way of thinking when we're dealing with current crises like climate change. How can we change outdated rules and regulations that are no longer effective in the modern age? His non-profit has already got bases around the world and has done a huge number of absolutely stunning projects. And all of these projects and everyone he works with are engaged in this one question: what next for civilization? Which is quite a big question, Indy. So think about the answer for that. And finally, we have Liana O'Cleary. Now, as I pointed out to Liana, she's sitting here, she's actually an actress. Anyone here from Dublin or Ireland or a fan of Irish television?
Oh, there you go.
She was in Fair City. So she was in this soap called Fair City. They killed a character off, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Oh.
So she had to change tracks and is now an interactive designer. It's a completely different thing. But my goodness, in the time when you've changed lanes, you've been so hugely successful and you've won so many awards. You studied global innovation design at the Royal College of Art and Imperial College in London. She also attended the Pratt Institute in New York. Liana is based in London and, as I say, has won so many designs awards. These include the Immerse UK Grand Prize and Jury Prize Award at the International Design Awards, Gold in Student Product category at the Design Intelligence Awards, and the Irish Designers Institute Graduate Award. She's also a former RSA Student Design Award winner. So welcome home, Liana, and welcome to our stunning panel. So my stylish panel, I'm going to call you my stylish panel because that's what Minister Kawakami said that you were. Let's just talk a little bit, very broadly, about the Expo 2025. why we've got a pavilion there, why we've got a presence there, what each of your fields think you can get out of this. Let's start with you, Baz. I'm calling him Baz, I'm allowed to. It's not disrespectful, but I'm allowed to. That's what he's known as. So why is it important to have a creative industries presence at this event?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We're living in interesting times. We're living through the Trump tariff terror. And he is turning out, isn't he, to be the Robespierre of international trade. And the interesting thing about the creative industries, you'll have noticed in the arguments about international trade, they're obsessed with physical goods. They want to put tariffs on everything from whiskey to cars to mobile phones to software, to hardware digits and so on. But they don't want to put tariffs on services and what we trade in, which is services and digital packets, because film and TV and video games, these are digital packets. And nobody's talking about putting tariffs on them like they are on pharmaceuticals. So actually, the current terror is a fantastic opportunity for the creative industries, both of Britain and of Japan. Minister, you say, do we regard Japan as a creative country? Yes, we do. And it's not a very good list that I'll come up with, but I think of anime, which is Japan's given the world. I think of the leading position in video software. I think of the massive investment Japanese companies like Sony have made in Western screen. And I also can't help thinking about those insane TV formats of the 1980s, in which people were persecuted and they screamed a lot, which I remember very well. They taught me a lot, by the way. But no, we regard that as a very creative country. As for Britain, creative industries are 6% of the economy. The creative industries are 17% of British exports. Actually, I think they're probably rather more, but the data on the creative industries is not really very good because we're only 25 years old. It could be better. So whichever way you look at it, it's a fantastic time to be showcasing the creative sector, both of Japan and Britain. But lest I end up sounding like somebody who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing, this is not just about economics, because the interchange of creative industries, ideas and services, has got a far bigger significance than money and trade and economics. It's the way countries understand each other. Because what are the products of the creative industries, if not mostly storytelling? Why do we tell stories? We tell stories because it's an act of human empathy. We need to tell stories and be told stories. And by doing so, we put ourselves in other people's shoes. And telling stories in your content across borders is an act of international empathy. And so this has a massive, massive importance. People talk about soft power. Yes, to a point. I'm talking about something more profound than that. How do countries come to understand each other? Mostly by the output of the creative sector.
That's a very good point. Yolanda, if I can bring you in now. Wherever you go in the world, this will be the case for all of you, wherever you go in the world and you tell them you're from Britain, one of the first things you're probably going to get asked about is our music, isn't it? And those four blokes that came out of Liverpool in the 60s, you know, that's just one of the first things that people talk to you about. And that is a sign, if you needed one, of just how powerful our music output is. And of course, evidence of its ability to cross every border on earth.
It absolutely does. I think that's the power of music. It transcends borders. It exports our culture without having to say anything or put a label on it. And I think what's really interesting about now, yes, people will ask you about the Beatles, but they'll ask you about Stormzy, they'll ask you about Adele, they'll ask you about classical musicians. We have such a diverse range of genres that we can showcase to the world. And for me, yes, showcase is brilliant. I mean, how showy is the pavilion? It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But collaboration for me is the thing that I want us to take away from this whole experience. How can we combine our learned experience? How can we say, oh, watch it, there's a pothole over there. Why don't we try it this way? How do we share our learning as well as showcase the great things we are? And I'm really interested when we go to a wonderful country like Japan, and we hear that the UK is sophistication, it's elegance. It is, it is, it is. But there is so much more. There's grittiness, there's determination. There are so many migrants that have come and created a world here that is now labelled British. I mean, you know, tandoori curry is also our national dish. You know, how do we make sure that all of that diversity is pulled together and is present for the world to see? And I think what we find then is that we become sort of like a wonderful embrace, like a motherly hug, because everybody can find home within our culture. And I think that's something that's really, really important to share. And yes, it's in our music as well. You're hearing, I think of jazz, and I think of, you know, the tradition of jazz, but when you hear of UK jazz, you've got Afrobeat coming in, you've got Scottish jazz, you've got jazz from the north of England, and it is a whole diaspora that can be shared and be lent into. So I want to see collaboration, I want to see sharing, and let's celebrate the great music we have.
Yeah, we're definitely, not least Yolanda Brown, ladies and gentlemen, who is phenomenal, as you know. Also phenomenal, Di sitting next to you. Now, you've got a unique perspective here in this panel because you were born in Osaka.
Yes.
And you moved here when you were 15.
Yes.
You know very well about the power of cross-fertilization with your contemporary music. You know how it works. Can you just tell us of the impact of you having experiences of both cultures?
So I was born a walking distance to Osaka Expo Park from the previous time, which was before I was born. And and then I came over here. And then, but one of the things I just listened to you both, I was just remembered that this is also, if I may say so, a little problem in Japanese education, if I may say so, that I was trained to be a musician because I wanted to, but without being in touch with any Japanese traditional music at all. I have never seen or heard Japanese instruments live when I was growing up in Japan. And then when I came over here in Europe, first time I heard Japanese traditional instruments in Germany, and when I was 20, I think. And then while I was a student at the Royal College of Music, I was asked to write music for Japanese traditional instruments for the first time. And those Japanese instruments, which I had no idea, it was taught by two British musicians who studied in Japan.
Extreme.
So I only know these instruments really from them. It was a show player and the koto player, and then also show player, especially show player. I think he's a bit of a historian too. So I remember he wrote me emails in Japanese, but it's a very beautiful Japanese, and I was so ashamed to reply with my doji, can I say doji? Yeah, doji Japanese.
It's definitely British.
Yeah, so I had to reply in English, because in English I'm allowed to make a mistake, I guess, because second language. So it was like that. So therefore, as you say, but then again, the music is, well, you have to, if you're doing any kind of music, it's already collaboration. But not collaboration between one side and the other and then you put together, but collaboration means like we have to make one sound on stage in front of people. So that's already, in my opinion, that's like a best way to collaborate. If everybody collaborate, there will be world's peace, I would say.
Sorted. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And fusing the two music styles is very effective, isn't it? Japanese and UK music.
Well, I think so too, yeah.
Styles,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So let's bring in Indy. Now, you have previously said that architecture is about unlocking what it means to be a human. Would you like to, that's a very big statement. You obviously back it up with your work, but just tell us what you mean by that.
So every revolution, I would argue, Le Corbusier talked about modular man. Every revolution is almost always rooted in the reimagination of what it means to be human. You could argue Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci set forth a way of seeing the world which actually totally entranced the world in actually the objectification, separation from nature. All these things were rooted in that way of seeing the world. And so architecture, like anything else, is often conceptually rooted in how we conceive what it means to be human. And I think the reason why I think this moment is important is that I think we are in a moment of radical transformation of what it means to be human. I think our conception of human, as culturally as we walk around with, is fundamentally outdated. It doesn't even sit close to science. You know, the reality is we are multitudes, our brains are social brains, we are epigenetically linked, we are microbiome, we're all sharing microbiomes right now. Like we can keep going. The idea of us as individuated beings is an illusion, and we are constructing a world based on that illusion. And the question for us, and this is why I think this is really important, is that everyone talks about the external revolution, the revolution of green energy, and actually the problem is not those. We're living in a world view where our imagination of self, which is rooted in separation, control, dominion, all these things are generating a world where we're externalizing and extracting from the world and self-terminating us. Like, there's a lot of words, but they're really precise. We are self-terminating us by externalizing and extracting from the planet at the rate that we are. And that is built into our worldview. If we see ourselves as separated, in dominion with the worldview, so we're at the end of a 1 in a 400-year cycle of thinking. So why this creativity matters is because this is not a revolution of technology and technological fixes. It's a revolution of what it means to be human. And that is the real revolution of creativity right now. And I don't think, here's my challenge, I think we're still trying to sell late 20th century creativity. We're not putting enough money and investment into actual radical reimagination of human and what it means to put money into art and culture at the scale that's necessary. And this is not just a cost. It's fundamentally a revolution that we are all talking about, which is a revolution in relationship to our planet. So I think Japan and the UK coming together, I think is really important, both at a geopolitical level for lots of reasons that we could talk about, but also as two major island nations which actually have significant impact. And now I think Japan has been doing brilliant work around Society 5.0. I think there are relationships to be built which go deep into the cultural conversation, where I think both parties can systemically learn, and not only learn, create radical new futures that are prerequisite for every other transformation. So everyone that tells you about green energy transformation or nature transformation, it won't work unless we have a human transformation, especially in an age of new human-machine relationships. So I'll end on this point, which is that our theory of humans and machines is still rooted in theories of control, dominion, instruction. What happens if you think about machines as tender machines, loving machines? If you think about machines in careful technologies, you start to reimagine machine-human relationships, you start to reimagine what our relationship in the world is more fundamentally. And I think this is where I think this relationship is really important and sets, I think, a foundation for something much more significant that needs to be built on top of it. So.
It's interesting that UK Pavilion, you know, it's styled in its building blocks, isn't it? And that is such an important message, visual message, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Like, for me, this is, I know we can talk nicely about the culture side. I think this is a really important geopolitical event. Right? We are talking about a relationship between nations which is really important. And I think it's also about looking at cultural investment across those nations in an integrated format, actually driving the cultural innovation that's necessary at the root level. And I don't mean product level. I mean at the root level of creativity, where we spend money into artists exploring what it means to be human, new forms of sound, new forms of experiences. I think we should be talking about major cultural investment programs across both nations in deep collaboration, as you were suggesting.
Okay. Plenty of food for thought there, Indy. I mean, Liana, you're an interaction designer. Tell us, first of all, what that entails. Excuse my ignorance. I bet you don't know.
Well, it's one of those terms that's in design that can be quite nebulous, right? And for me, that's a really exciting place to be, because when terms aren't really settled yet, you know you're kind of at the front of something. But so some people use the term UX, some experience. I make interactions for people with XR devices, but I like how it's still nebulous and unsettled.
There's something new. You had the opportunity to study in Japan, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Just tell us about that experience and what you took away from it. You're very, very lucky, very fortunate to have had that, aren't you?
Yeah, I absolutely am. Yeah, I love talking about it. So I suppose the design process that I was taught was one where you find a problem, and then you become an expert in that problem, and then you go about trying to address that problem with design, which is super important and really, really necessary. It can also mean sometimes, because you're designing for an immediate problem, you're designing an immediate solution, and your time horizon for that can be sometimes very short. One thing I found while studying at KO's Graduate School of Media Design was the approach was quite different. So the design approach was very blue sky, very how might we. I found that challenging at the start because I was really entrenched in my problem solution. But it can be quite freeing to design for opportunity. It opens up your time horizons, gives you freedom to throw out bold ideas. And that blue sky approach is something I definitely took with me into industry. So now I'm working at Bentley Systems in their iLab. They're doing some really cool work with infrastructure digital twins. And at the iLab, it's kind of like an innovation hub space where we take emerging technologies, maybe try and smush them together, see what we can do with infrastructure digital twins. And I really think that blue sky approach really, really suits this environment here. It's very, very optimistic. And also at a time like now where there's a lot of pessimism around, as people mentioned, it can be quite terrifying for a lot of people. Optimism is, designing for optimism can be really pretty radical,
Very well said. You know, when you do history at school, there are two dates, well, for me anyway, there's only two dates that stick in your head, 1066 and 1851, the Great Exhibition, because everybody was taught about this. Now, going back to 1851, I mean, it was a massive showcase, a demonstration of Britain's industrial power. What is this Expo 2025 going to send out to the world about what we are celebrating, what we are known for, what we are brilliant at to the rest of the world? What do you think it's going to be? I mean, anyone can answer that particular one.
Talk for music.
That's...
Shall I speak for music? I think what's really important when we talk about music is the idea that music travels and transcends those barriers and can find a home outside of those shores. So I think, making sure that there's something new that's coming out of this expo. Is there commissions that are coming through, collaborations between artists? You spoke of so many amazing genres that have come out of Japan, J-pop, for example. My daughter loves K-pop and J-pop. J-pop, for example. What can we bring here and exchange over there? I think it's really important. And then also leaning into the idea of investment. How do we make sure that those areas, as great as they are and shiny as they are, and we can always talk about them, they will die if we don't invest. So investing in exporting our artists to go around the world, to Japan, investing in the grassroots, you spoke about education. How do we make sure that creative education, which is literally the ecosystem, the pipeline to feed into this, how do we make sure that education is supported? Can we showcase what we have here? With my BPI hat on, we started the Brit School and having those creative academies that really focus and hone in on understanding your creativity, but also the business. And how do we make sure that that works across borders? So for me, it would be the grassroots, the exports, and the education.
Baz, I was just going to say that we already know the creative industries are a multi-billion-pound business for the economy here. That's import and export. It's phenomenally successful. What's next? What is the next thing we hope to achieve by our presence?
Yeah, I can't claim complete familiarity with everything that's going on in the Expo, the British Expo House, but. The thing that I'm really interested in, it's entirely future-facing, and I hope it touches on some of the things that my fellow panelists have just talked about, because they're all very future-facing. And that's what we're coming to call Createch. And not everybody's using that phrase yet. A lot of people are doing it without using that phrase. But essentially what we're talking about is interdisciplinarity and the value, both economic, social, cultural, that flows from interdisciplinarity. So we're talking about where creative design meets technology. And what that, so at the Royal College of Art, where, as you said, I chair the council, and where you used to study, we have now 85 spin-out companies, which from a tiny graduate college is amazing. We're in the top 10 for spin-outs in the country. And they are all Createch. They are solutions, environmental solutions, health solutions, where we have sprint teams, where you've got, like a ceramicist and a product designer working with an engineer and a data scientist. And they're together in an interdisciplinary way. They're creating amazing ideas and solutions, and it's incredibly future-facing. So you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Createch.
Createch.
Follow Createch.
Okay.
I did not say creosote.
I thought he said creosote.
Createch.
Createch. Well, we heard it here first. Di, the need, if you like, for the UK and Japan to kind of culturally work together. Where does that come from, and how important is that to you?
Oh, you mean like the way why I came here, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of our presence over in Osaka is we are sharing and we are celebrating, and why is that important?
Well, I mean, because from my point of view, I mean, because I was doing music since such a young age, and all I wanted to do was just music. And so you, I don't know, you are listening to, even that's way before listening to music over the internet. Even then, you are discovering lots of different composers and musicians, not just one genre. Classical is one, but I mean, I don't think I have a very good, healthy relationship with the classical music, but here we are. Yeah, because I was really taught to do so. But pop and film music and that kind of things, and it's the normal things, I think, that are to wonder what I like is that artist today, this week, and you fancy another artist next week, and then you just wondered that person has come from here, come from UK, come from Germany, come from France. I just wanted to go and see them or study with them, and I think that's the initial motive for me to get out of Japan and then come over here alone, and that was it was a great. Well, I mean, I still think it's great, and. Because I mean, I think if you go to not just visit as a tourist, but you just go there to actually live, that because I mean the culture and the common sense and everything is so different, and you immediately learn, wow, that how I think or what I think is normal is not normal or whatever it is. So you learn each other, and then I think that's kind of chemical reaction between that's what happens in the collaboration, especially in music, because I mean music is a more I think it's what's the word because whether you get along or not, you have to play, you have to perform together at 7:30 in front of people, so you have no choice but to have a good chemical reaction and then give more than what you are.
That need for exchange and collaboration, indeed, that obviously applies to your world as well. I mean, you work internationally. Do you have evidence? What Come Build the Future as a theme, the things that you are seeking to change in the future are quite profound and massive. Do you have any evidence that exchange and collaboration is helping others to see your vision?
Yeah, I mean, look, the futures are going to be built in different contexts. So if you want to talk about resource-backed currencies, new forms of monetary innovation, you're going to do that in Africa. You're not going to do that in the UK because of the mining infrastructure. If you're going to talk about effectively Society 5.0, or if you want to talk about post-growth economies and actually what that future looks like, you're going to work with Japan. If you're going to talk about actually looking at new forms of longitudinal living, how do we get people to live to 100 years, then you're going to talk about how do you expand the idea or the belief that blue zones are possible to around the world. So I think contexts always have particularities to what they can contribute. And I think Japan currently is in a very powerful nexus point of many of these issues, whether it's human-machine relationships. Remember, the relationship, from an outsider's perspective, the relationship to machines in Japan is fundamentally different to the relationship with machines in the West. We have a relationship of othering, separation. We see these as, terminators, effectively. We've lived in a culture of turning machines into weapons and seeing them as weapons against us. That isn't necessarily the only relationship with machines. Some cultures have relationships with machines which are not about othering, which are much more symbiotic, which have tenderness and careness and other qualities. So for me, it's kind of, I think that at the intersection of those things, something beautiful can happen. And that's why I think this work is really important. And the cultural, the work, if you want to talk about land which owns itself, the work we're doing that work in Canada, because indigenous ideas of land governance meets the Crown in Canada to explore different relationships of how we govern land in fundamental different ways. So we're seeing the world open up in different contexts and in different situations. And what we've got to do is find those situations and build frameworks of the future. I mean, it'd be amazing if we, UK and Japan could collaborate on building basically blue zone nations, people living 100 years well, given effectively across the UK lifespans, life expectancy is falling. What would it mean to do that? Well, we'd have to change our food systems, we'd have to change our water systems, we'd have to change effectively our civic infrastructure. We'd have to have a revolution of how we do well-being, not just as well-being as an idea, and life sciences and technologies and culture, all of that stuff would be invited as part of a change. And that's some of those things that could be really powerful partnerships. So that's why I see this as really important.
It's really inspiring, isn't it? Liana, you're a young person. You're what's known as a young person.
Oh.
I mean, we have other young people on the panel, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
From the point of view of a young person, I mean, I've got, as a parent, the impression I get from a younger generation is that the world is so insular now, and everybody's doing their own thing, and it's more fractious than it is collaborative.
Yeah.
I just wonder, from your point of view, whether that is something that you've run up against and something that you're aware of in your industry, that people are just like, well, we're going to do our own thing.
No, I think quite the opposite, actually. I know COVID had a big impact on that, but innovation thrives with diversity of thought, when you bring that together. And I think that is, whether the design process I learned here or in Japan, that's something that was really, really foregrounded. Collaboration is key. Can I mention one thing, though, that one creative industry that hasn't really been mentioned much here, but I think is maybe larger than film and music and TV combined, and that's games.
Yep, absolutely.
I do know they're
very good at that in the UK, yes.
And they're okay at it in Japan.
Not larger, actually, but substantial.
Not larger. Okay, sorry.
Speaking of something from the screen.
Yeah. I hear Japan are okay at that as well.
No, you're right.
Like that is like a giant industry that we can absolutely learn from. We use game engines every day at work. I use them all the time. Learn from game design as well. We often borrow a lot in interaction design from game design as well. So that's. Just wanted to bring that up here because I do know.
Actually, it is larger worldwide. You're quite right. I apologise.
No
it's just in the UK. It's a bit smaller, but worldwide, you're spot on.
We don't celebrate it enough, the game. I don't think the games industry,
Not
do
at
we?
all,
I don't play any games whatsoever, computer-wise. Anyway, I play games up here.
I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom for the third time at the moment. It's a phenomenal game. It's definitely if we're making connections with Japan, it's a behemoth.
And it's because my image of Japan is just absolutely cutting edge, phenomenal, technologically advanced, that we've got so much to learn. Just sort of projecting to something that Baz said. You made reference to our times, the elephant in the room, the times that we are living in, the troubled times that we are living in. Inevitably, some people will say, well, why are we having Expo 2025 over a space of 6 months? The world is falling to pieces. Now, just briefly give me a response to that, each of you, before we're going to start taking some questions in a bit. So.
I'm maybe just reiterating something I said earlier, but if we cannot collaborate and share ideas and tell stories, not just within our own country, but between countries, we're lost.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I'm a glass half full person anyway. So there will always be an element of crisis, a problem that needs a solution, but especially because we are talking about the creative arts. Our solution and our comfort, and maybe the answer comes after we've innovated, created, used our different areas. You know, you speak about gaming, but games need design, they need people, they need music, they need all of these things. It brings people together. So no matter where there is crisis, as long as there is innovation and there is the want to have a better place, to have a better world. And I think we find that most in creativity, because we either play or write or make music that is like a snapshot of where we are now, or something we've been through, or looking to the future. And I think, you know, the creative industries has a really great way of, let's allow ourselves to feel, be in our feelings, as the younger people would say, but also what a world it could be. You know, how many times that lyric has appeared in different songs, what a world it could be. And if we can live with that, this is why we need an expo. So we don't sit and sort of mull in our own culture and country. Let's share this together. We're all sharing the same planet. We're talking about, you know, global climate change and all the rest. We're all sharing the same planet. How do we do it all together? And I think if, as long as the industries can work together, come together, innovate together across their boundaries, we can make the world a better place.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, true, but because it's true. And but in a way, when you were saying that this question, that, well, more like I was thinking, well, that, in that case, maybe if you have more expos, then we have a less problem. We're going to have it every month, maybe.
More coming to
I don't know. Why not? Well,
Okay, there's our radical idea. Indy.
I think we're at the end of one era of globalization. And I think there's some kind of straightforward honesty that needs to be, we're at the end of an era. And I think what we have to look forward into is what is the next planetarity relationships. And this is not going to be the old 1850, the 1851 era is dead. Maybe this is the last moment of that. And we have to look forward into a new planetarity. And the planetarity, we cannot be isolationists, right? The UK does not survive if the Amazon doesn't survive. The UK does not survive if we lose the ice shelf in the Antarctica. We all die, we're all dead. So we are planetarily entangled, and we have to rebuild a new theory of planetarity relationships. And I think that we're at the cusp of a new way of looking at the globe and the planet. And I think this is the invitation that the Expo really needs to be building, and is probably at the cusp of building, is a new planetary relationship. So I think the next generations of, you know, I think we should look at the next generations of expos in quite a fundamentally different way as to what they bring. And maybe this is a moment for the expo to herald this new planetarity and open up this conversation.
We need to seize the challenge, Liana.
I'm someone who's inclined towards anxiety about the world, and I think adopting a very optimistic posture about the future, long term, definitely helps that. So perhaps I do it as a means of self-soothing, yes. But it is quite freeing, taking a longer time horizon view of things and you know, having an optimistic approach. Sorry if that sounds a bit esoteric or something there.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take some questions from the floor and from our audience online. But first of all, we've got a very special message that's been sent to us from Japan. We have economist Professor Takua Dome, who has sent us a message. He's from the Inochi Forum, and he's a professor at Osaka University. And he has sent this message about Expo and about us being here and about this collaboration that we have. So let's hear from him, and then we'll hear from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the RSA and distinguished guests, congratulations on the opening of the UK Pavilion at the Osaka Kansai Expo. My name is Takuo Dome, advisor to the president of Osaka University and chair of the Inochi Forum Executive Committee. Allow me to briefly share the philosophy behind the Inochi Forum. Inochi is a Japanese term that signifies sanctity of life. It goes beyond human existence to embrace all forms of life, emphasizing respect, individuality, and the celebration of potential. The Inochi Forum envisions a society where those in need of help and those offering help support one another in mutual and fluid relationships. These roles are not fixed. They shift over time and with circumstances. This vision echoes the global commitment of the SDGs, especially the pledge to leave no one behind, and aligns closely with the Expo's themes, designing future society for our lives. 2 years ago, Osaka University established the Inochi Forum together with 3 major economic organizations in the Kansai region, and now we are preparing to publish the Inochi Declaration at the Expo site on October 10, a call to humanity outlining the actions needed to build a future centered on Inochi. This declaration is not a conclusion, but a beginning, one that will contribute to the global dialogue on the post-2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Through it, we aim to bring the voice of Inochi to the world stage. The UK Pavilion's message, "Can build the future," resonates deeply with our mission. I look forward to collaborating with the RSA and all of you to co-create a future where every Inochi is seen, valued, and nurtured. Thank you.
Professor Takeo Dome. Okay, so should we take some questions, and we'll also take some questions from our YouTube audience. So we've got some roving microphones. Does anyone have any questions for our panel? We've got a question down here.
Thank you very much. Really interesting contributions. I'm Bill G. I work in putting arts into public spaces for free so that people don't have some of the barriers to experience them. And just one example that you've not mentioned, which is happening, I think, about 400 meters away from here, is My Neighbour Totoro, which is a show that a British company, Improbable, a theatre company, have made, which have been supported by the Arts Council for decades, and they've made it with Studio Ghibli and with Nippon TV, and it's a fantastic show, and everybody must go and see it. And I think it will appear around the world. But that's not the point. I just wanted to make the point. I love the work that Immersive have done in terms of creating the pavilion in Osaka. But I think there is a missed opportunity, and this is about having the voice of many different artists that can be there on different days, on different weeks, and actually create dialogue. And I think it's really, what we're hearing about is dialogue, and I think there is a missed opportunity there. So I would hope, it's a plea maybe, just to say that, we've got another 5 months, and that can happen. So I'd just like a view from maybe a couple of people on the panel about that, and having the voice of a diversity of creative artists within the incredible space that has been made by Immersive.
Okay, do you want to take that, Yolanda?
Well, I don't know the 6-month plan. I'm sure that there are many sort of touch points where there will be people there.
I mean, shall we get...
Yeah.
What, do you want to...
Yeah.
If you introduce yourself out to the audience, this is the person that knows.
But firstly, thank you. Great question. My Neighbour Totoro is brilliant. I bloody agree.
It is.
Secondly, I'm Jack. I head up events for the UK's presence at the World Expo. We're actually hosting over 75 events there, everything from the Birmingham Royal Ballet. We're speaking to the Royal Shakespeare Company, hoping to get Totoro out. We have some incredible, really innovative, brand new British businesses, as well as large-scale established institutions and arts organisations. We've got 4 bands supported by the BPI coming out. So we're open to new ideas. There is opportunity to get further involved, but we're very excited about the programme that's already running.
Good answer.
That's a good. And as I mentioned, we, of course, are all available.
Absolutely.
Available to go out there. But that is a good point. Any more questions from the floor here? Should we take... Oh, we've got a question over here.
3, actually. 3.
2 questions.
3. There's a lady in the middle as well.
I'm very interested in the reimagining the future vision, but particularly interested as well, and you mentioned sort of longer life expectancy and what we can learn from Japan, and actually should we be diving much more into the past? And I love Ikigai as a concept, and there's some really interesting studies around the number of centurions in Japan, and you're looking to the research here. So is there a danger of being too future-focused? And you mentioned everyone on the panel was very future-focused. Should we be thinking a bit more around actually really delving into the learnings that we should be picking up from the past?
Indeed, we can learn from the past.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a spiral, not to go back to the past. Right, so I often think we end up romanticizing some history, but it's not. It rhymes with the past, but it isn't the past. So I think it's some really beautiful work. Certainly, I mean, so some of the beautiful work that I've seen about sort of micro machines and craft that's going on in Japan, and some beautiful work that's going on there. I think so. Even if we talk about blue zones, yes, we should talk about food biodiversity and all of that stuff, but also new life sciences. So I think there's this conversation about how we fuse these worlds into finding new ways of doing, which I find actually quite inviting. And that's also true with like animism. So a lot of the work that we're seeing around, there's a piece of work going on of how you can talk to a dog, literally using large-scale language models, whales. What happens if you can talk to a tree, which is also being done? So you start to talk about an animist real-world experience in a way that we've never really imagined. This is kind of beautiful because it rhymes with history, but also brings forth new ways. And what's the expression? What's the means of communicating that? It all opens up. So I suppose I often look at this as rhyming moments rather than going backward moments as well.
Great question. And there's somebody just behind there. Hi.
Hello, hi. Thank you for a great panel, first of all. My question might be a bit abstract in nature, so bear with me. It's about the future. So India talked about thinking of the future, and my question is what do you think is the North Star when you're trying to think of the future? Do you think it's the fact that you talked about almost like a collective consciousness that everybody has, and just this relation that we are not really separate, we work together, we feel together, we're sharing microbes? Or is it just the fact that at some point humans will be able to self-actualize? Is that the North Star, or is it just the planetary health? So how do you really set the parameter? I mean, it might not be a straight answer, so I know it's a big question.
Baz, North Star.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you very much. I guess what I would say is that we need to open ourselves. Colleagues have talked about technology this evening, and we are living through the most dramatic industrial revolution we've ever lived through, and we're in the very early years of it, so we don't understand it, and it is very dramatic, and our grandchildren will lead incredibly different lives. I hope they'll be leading lives, by the way, to your point. They'll be leading incredibly different lives. So for me, it's opening our minds to the possibility as technology changes of what we can do with it in an entirely open-minded, radical open-minded way. I think we've heard quite a lot of radical open-mindedness from colleagues, admirably so, this evening. And that, for me, would be the key.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
Just want my glass half full. It's still half full, but I'm about to say something that doesn't sound very helpful. As we progress to the future and we get very excited about what that looks like, and I love that term rhyming, it makes total sense to me, there's still that element of protecting the human element, because we are developing and innovating so quickly that we need to remember to look after that human creativity, human existence, and I think it's especially when it comes to creativity, there are industries that are feeding into that innovation that can be forgotten very quickly. So I'll keep it top line, but I think, let's make sure that we're always looking after the human element of innovation.
Okay, thank you, Lan. I'm just going to take, there's one question here, we'll come to you in a moment, sir. Just taking a question from one of our YouTube viewers. Indy spoke about what it means to be human now. Yolanda spoke of music bringing people together. What role has technology played in the loneliness epidemic, and how might we innovate to solve this for a better future? Liana, one over to you. A nice simple one.
Yeah, I guess I'm always trying to use technology to bring people together, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's played a massive role, as we all know. Like even kids now, my nephews are aware that they're capable of being addicted to YouTube, you know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm like fully equipped to really tackle that question, but again, the optimism. There's a lot of people trying to work to use technology to bring us together, which it does in many ways. But
Did you say loneliness?
Yes.
Well, so if I may say, so during the pandemic time, it was terrible time and everything. But I have to say, I mean, you know, for composer who is a very inward kind of people anyway, to lock these people in a one room, I mean, that was a great time for me to collaborate with, I mean, many musicians over Zoom. That the quality went so much better within a few months, and there was many other technology. I mean, for the audio. Anyway, so I think I have made, I mean, quite sort of shy to say in front of you, but for the first time, I made 2 albums with like a Nordic jazz musicians and so on, and without meeting, obviously. And those things were possible because of the technology, and literally we were all alone, not just me. Everybody was alone and lonely in a way. Yeah. But because of we were so itched to make music and sound, and so it was a great, and the technology allowed it. So that's definitely possible, I think.
We are a resourcul lot, and we need to be, don't we, at the moment?
And probably innovation comes off the back of that. Yeah. The fact that, I mean, I was able to be head of music of a 40-episode animation between LA, all different parts of the UK and the States, and never met any of the team. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's gone out, it's already been out in the world. So that, being able to do that and sort of flex. But then somebody that's experiencing loneliness, that's when sort of that innovation tech comes together to try and bring the world closer. And I think there's great sort of opportunity.
Definitely.
Make music and they'll be fine.
Make music.
Take the question from the gentleman at the back, yes.
Oh, hello, Richard Perry. Indy, picking up on what you said about being more human, and also this lady over here, I'd like to flag up a guy called Abraham Maslow, who talked about this thing called peak experience, which is about being more human. So my question is, in a world, peak experience became flow, which is now called high performance, and it's picked up by the business people, but actually it's about being more human. So my question is, in the world of, I think you've all said it, collaboration, care, and can I add competence, because we also need 3 C's or something. What is the future of leadership? Because that's what I'm interested in. Because if we're going to do trade deals between Japan and UK, etc., and we need to do things differently. So let's not just look at the trade and say, well, let's double the trade and do more sales. What could it be like if our leaders, what do they need to do to make this incredible future you've got us thinking about? And it isn't just doubling trade. I think that's a bit boring, isn't it?
Indy, yeah, it's a good question.
It's a great question. I think from what I'm seeing, we're at a sort of paradigmatic shift in our theory of leadership. Leadership has largely been rooted in theories of instruction, control, and dominion, and sort of like, and the whole idea of a CEO in a complex, entangled world where virtually no board is able to effectively understand the risk that its companies operate in because of the nature of complexity and entanglement. I think we've reached a moment where we are forcibly being re-entangled at the planetary scale. Forcibly being re-entangled at the planetary scale through CO2, methane, microplastics, pick your lot. That culture information as well, right? That forcible re-entanglement requires a different theory of leadership because it requires you to operate with fundamentally an idea that you do not know. Not that you know, fundamentally you operate with the idea that you cannot know everything. So humility is a fundamental part of wisdom, right? I think you have to also operate, the future of the CEO is the chief learning officer. It's not the executive officer. It's not the instruction capability of leadership, but creating the learning infrastructure for 21st century institutions. Almost certainly there will be all machine-assisted learning environments. So I think learning becomes, and the third demonstrative, I think, in a complex entangled world is care. Your capacity to operate in a deep, meaningful relationship of care, which is fundamentally it's not a service. So sorry for the service designers out there. Care is never a service. Care is always a relationship. And you have to construct, I think, opens up a different theory of leadership and being in quite a fundamental way. So, but it also requires something from all of us. So leadership is no longer a pyramid. Leadership is everyone has to act and be a leader. That is about holding contributions and outcomes as opposed to holding roles and positions. So this is also a societal transformation of what does it mean to be a citizen in complex systems. It requires us all to evolve. And this is why every industrial revolution has almost always been paralleled by a human development revolution. Schools were built at the same time as our industrial revolution. So what are the 21st century human development environments that are necessary for this new machine-human environment that we're operating in? So that's the way I'd respond.
Okay, all right. We've just got a question from a gentleman down here, then we'll come to you, sir.
I love being called a gentleman, thank you.
We're all very stylish here, so we feel very confident.
My name is Paul Drexler. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to the Royal Albert Hall to see Eric Clapton, who has just finished 6 nights in the Budokan in Japan. He's played live in Japan more than any other artist around, international artist in Japan. And I think it just sort of reminds us that this is the best capital city on planet Earth because of the diversity of people and the quality of creativity that we really enjoy here. So I do think there is a lot to be optimistic about and excited about because of the raw materials that we have. But when it comes to UK and Japan, we have a tremendous history of collaboration. And my question to the panel would be, what more can we do to encourage young people interchange between both of our countries so we get to enjoy a benefit from the different artistic and creative experiences that we have?
Okay. Di, do you want to take that? What can we do to encourage this? Yeah.
I think it's quite simply if they could just swap the group of people, go there, they come over here, and they would definitely learn a lot about themselves as well as the local culture, obviously. And also, I had when I came here when I was 15, so I had a legal guardian, kind of English family who were like my parents, and they were very traditional, British family, and we are still in touch. And I have to say, I learned a lot and had a great time. And also, I think that kind of experience, you cannot do it remotely. You just have to be there. And of course, there will be struggle, because obvious things are not obvious. And there are people out there eating Marmites and right, that kind of stuff.
Marmite, yeah.
All that stuff. So there's a big difference, but I mean, you learn. And so I think that kind of thing is extremely important. You can't learn from the book, you can't learn on the YouTube or internet. So they just swap at least a year or something, but that's a year is a minimum. Okay. And then I think that's a great way to that.
Absorb each other's cultures. Baz, you want to come in there?
Well, I was going to say 2 very simple things. And that is, if you don't include foreign students who come to study in Britain in the immigration statistics, which is an absurdity, you don't drag them into the somewhat distressing conversations we have about immigration in this country, understandable but distressing nevertheless. And speaking as the chair of a university council, I speak with some passion on this. And we want the best and most brilliant people to come here, and we want to send the best and most brilliant people abroad. And to that extent, also, we need a new agreement with the EU, yes, which for the wonderful interchange of young people that stopped when Brexit happened. So those are 2 very, very simple things, Paul, we need to do. And I hope he plays in my father's eyes at the Clapton concert because it's a simply beautiful song, is it not? It's the most touching song he ever wrote.
Thank you, great question. We'll just take, we've got time for one more question. We'll just take the gentleman back. Thank you.
Paul Diamond, a fellow for 45 years. Reflecting the theme of the pavilion at Osaka, the British Pavilion at Osaka, and the sense in the panel's remarks have been so immensely helpful to us that there could be a sort of like-mindedness in the Japanese and British approach to creativity. I would leave the panel and the RSA with a suggestion: how we can attract more Japanese artists, manufacturers and traders to become fellows of the RSA.
Whoa. Good sales pitch.
Yeah, very good sales pitch.
Excellent sales pitch.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Let's just take this one more question here and then...
Thank you very much. Hello, my name's Anna Dingley. I was actually working with Kerry on the advisory committee for the Expo, but I've lived and worked in Japan, and I launched a UK Ekiden, which is a running race between Japanese students and British students last year. I couldn't not say anything. So the British government actually has been running trade missions for British computer games developers. I used to run them in 1999, 2000, 2001.
Wow.
Tokyo has the Japan... in Japan, there's a Tokyo Game Show every year, and the government's always trying to help companies. They would get funding with their planes to come, plane tickets to go. Also, I was just thinking online, there must be a lot of people who are really interested in learning about what's going on between Japan and the UK. And the Japan Society in the UK has a huge amount of events, not just, obviously the Expo is our focus today, which is wonderful, but there's a huge amount of events that young people can get involved with. There's a youth collective they've launched this year, and the Daiwa Foundation funds people to go out to Japan. Lots of artists go out all the time to get exchange. So I think it's really wonderful to hear all of these lovely collaborative and optimistic stories. I think the Expo is obviously for 6 months. A lot of people won't be able to go out there, but I wondered perhaps just as a final comment whether you could share as a question. My question would be if there are other events happening in the UK this year that you're really excited about, that you could maybe share, that people who might not be able to go out to Expo but could still come and sort of experience that sort of collaboration and optimism in the UK. If it's sort of sharing globally, it would be great to hear a couple more.
There are actually other events happening here. So this is one of a series of events that are linking the RSA here with Japan and the Expo 2025. So there are 3 more events, I think, on varying themes. And there are lots more things happening, which information you can pick up from the RSA website, ladies and gentlemen. So this is just the start. I mean, there are so much planned, isn't there? Absolutely. And I hope what we've got from our incredible panel tonight is some very serious food for thought, but also a sense of celebration, of optimism, a bit of pride, the stuff we are sharing and want to share, but also a willingness to learn and absorb. And this is really what Expo, I think, is really all about, coming together in a kind of fractious world and just saying we're here to share ideas. It's based on a man-made island, the Osaka Expo 2025, and I think it's called Dream Island, and that is so apt, isn't it? Because we've had a lot of dreams to the future here, and I think, listening to all of you, I feel very optimistic, and also I am, as I say, very, very available to go to Osaka later. I just want to say thank you to our brilliant panel. Thank you so much to the RSA and the UK at Expo team for putting such a fantastic panel of people together. You've been absolutely fantastic to listen to. And I'm sure that, as I say, you may want to know about all the other events that are happening. You can find out by signing up to the RSA mailing list, get all the information about upcoming dates and themes, and check out the UK at Expo 2025 website. And of course, all the information is up there for you to follow. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do hope we'll see you here at the other events that are they're going to be exploring what's going to happen over the next 6 months with this link between us and Osaka 2025. So I just want to say a massive thanks to all of you. I hope you found it really interesting, and a huge thanks to my fantastically stylish and elegant panel. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
And brilliantly chaired. Really.
Thank you. Thank you.